putting things in place, that he is the one who's ultimately in control. He is the sovereign one who has all of our time in his hands. And things are not falling apart and in chaos without God allowing it to be, because his timing is perfect. He has a perfect time. And for you and I, our time, our days are numbered to the perfect precision of his timing, not anyone else's. And so we just need to remember that as we're watching things happen. And just some scriptures to remind us of that today is Hebrews 9:27-28. And as it is appointed for men to die once, but after this the judgment, so Christ was offered once to bear the sins of many. To those who eagerly wait for him, he will appear a second time apart from salvation. So it's appointed for once to man to die, and that is according to God's timing. When he says so is when it will happen. And for we understand that Jesus came and died right at the right time. It was God's timing for him to die on a cross for our sins, and it's his timing for when he comes again, that person that we're eagerly waiting for. And of course, we have to remember that Daniel made sure to let us know that and this was actually Nebuchadnezzar's dream in Daniel 4:17. The decision is by the decree of the watchers, and the sentence by the word of the holy ones, in order that the living may know that the Most High rules in the kingdom of men, and gives it to whoever he will, and sets it over the lowest of men. We need to remember these things, because we tend to look around and the Luciferians and all of these people that are vying for global control, the WEF, and we point all these things out, but they cannot do anything unless God allows them to do it, because God has his timetable, and it will come to pass exactly like he says. And of course, right before we get into the story that's going to make sense to all this, of course, I wake up this morning, before I even grab a cup of coffee and sit down, I discover that, of course, we have another global IT outage that grounds flights, disrupts banking, takes media off air. And of course, before we even have the opportunity to find out what's going on, within minutes of the event happening, we get these updates that say cybersecurity CrowdStrike said the issue was caused by its update and a fix has been deployed, noting it was not a security incident or cyber attack. But they come right out and tell us that before, how they know immediately what happened, right? A massive internet outage on July 19th caused IT issues for major global institutions, grounding flights, disrupting banks' apps, knocking media outlets off the air, and even affecting supermarkets' computer systems. The issue was caused by a defect, and notice the Windows out there, right? Oh yeah, it's a Windows problem, right? Windows software update from cybersecurity firm CrowdStrike, the company confirmed. Airports in the United States, Japan, the Netherlands, Germany, Spain, and the United Kingdom all reported problems with their IT systems. So again, it's just another software glitch. Something they've been telling us over the last 2 years. We have seen thousands of processing plants being destroyed, fires in refineries plants, barges hitting bridges, and they are all caused by software glitches. That's what they're all caused by, software glitches. So I thought I'd just give us a little, by way of reminder, a few things. And that, of course, is that, things that we are supposed to believe, that it was a software glitch. Nothing to worry about. Just keep scrolling. Don't worry. Of course, the other one is a gas leak. Can't have those gas leaks. That's what caused the whole refinery to blow up. And it just happens to be all over the world, refineries blowing up at the same time because of a gas leak. Nothing to see here. Keep going, because it was just a freak accident, guys. It's just a one-off, right? Happening thousands of times all over the world at the same time. Of course, we know that it wasn't a vaccine. We don't want you to think that, that sudden death was a vaccine. So don't, before they even have a chance to do an autopsy, we want to make sure you know that it wasn't a vaccine. Don't trust us. The masks work. I don't care what they keep saying in all the reports. We need to know that masks work. That's why you still see people wearing masks. And of course, all of these lies, can lead up to us actually believing that 3 men with box cutters. Oh, oops, I don't know if I was supposed to say that. And of course, where we're at today, the same thing that we're supposed to believe that we hear all the time, and that it was a lone gunman. Just a lone gunman. Just a freak accident, a lone gunman, a lone wolf attack. Nothing to see here. Go back to watching the RNC and just, go back to your watching your Fox News, and don't worry, nothing to see here, nothing happening here. And of course, this couldn't have been more evident this week. When, a lot of this is old news to many of us, but we're going to cover it anyway. And that is, of course, the timeline of the Trump assassination attempt, what we know so far. So a lot has come out since last week. Last Saturday, this happened, the day after my last prophecy update. But over the week, we've learned a lot about this supposed lone gunman and just a freak lapse of security in a whole team that's trained for these things. Okay, we're supposed to believe this stuff. Okay, this is what they want us to believe. And so thank goodness for Breitbart putting this together to show you how ridiculous this whole situation sounds, right? It says, since the assassination attempt of former President Donald Trump on Saturday, there have been a myriad of mind-boggling revelations of seemingly security lapses that allowed a 20-year-old Thomas Matthew Crooks to climb a rooftop within range and direct line of sight to the former president, and almost succeeded in fatally wounding him. Breitbart News has put together a timeline of the events of Saturday based on reports and official statements. This isn't coming from conspiracyseries.com. These are from, legitimate sources. And it says, and we'll continue to update it as we find more. Saturday, July 13th at 1 p.m., the doors scheduled to open to campaign rally in Butler, Pennsylvania at Butler Farm Show Incorporated. So 1 o'clock, the gates open for this event that's going to have Donald Trump there. It says by 3 p.m., Crooks went through a screening area with a magnetometer and was carrying a rangefinder, which looks like binoculars, and was flagged. So 3 o'clock, they already spotted this guy. By 5 p.m., Trump was scheduled to deliver remarks, but is late. Sometime before 5:11 p.m., police allegedly spot Crooks hanging around the American Glass Research Complex more than an hour before the assassination attempt. And this was Channel 11 News. They're the ones who reported this. Prior to 5:45 p.m., another law enforcement who sees Crooks on the ground also calls him in as a suspicious person and takes a picture. An officer checks the grounds for Crooks at that point, but does not see him. So this is 5:45. Prior to that, they already have spotted him. He's already been flagged. They're already got an eye on him. Think about this, okay? 5:51 p.m. Secret Service spots the shooter and confirms the threat at 5:53 p.m. before Trump even takes the stage. This is from Senator Marsha Blackburn to Donald Trump Jr. after a Secret Service briefing to the Senate on July 17th. So this comes from the Secret Service themselves. Then around 6 p.m., so we're talking 10 minutes have gone by. 6 p.m., the officer sends the photo to command to be on the lookout. Officer then sees Crook return to the building carrying a backpack. He issues more warnings to command. Crook sits down and begins looking at his phone. At this point, Trump is about an hour late. Officer then sees Crooks pull out a rangefinder to gauge the distance between where he was and where Trump was speaking. He again notifies command about what he's seeing. This is at 6 p.m. Okay, 6:02 p.m., 2 minutes later, Secret Service, police, everybody know what's going on. This guy is there, right? Trump takes the stage. Crooks is still on the ground. Sometime after 6:02 p.m., Crooks scales the building behind and out of sight of where the officers were in the building. Butler Township officers converge on the building to do a full perimeter walk of the building, according to Tom Knights, manager of Butler Township, and that source is NBC News. Two of Butler Township police officers responding to the officers and other rally goers' warning follow Crooks up the building, but retreat when they see he has a gun. So they know he's got a gun. This is minutes, plenty of time before he even takes a shot at Trump. And says at least a minute before the shooting at 6:11 p.m., rally goers alert police to Crooks being on the rooftop. 6:11 p.m. and 33 seconds, Crook fires first shot at Trump. Manages to fire 8 shots. 8 shots. 8 shots. You need to think about that. As the shots are fired, members of the Pennsylvania State Police rushed to the building and began clearing it from inside. Within the next 16 seconds, 2 shots followed, with at least 1 shot killing Crooks, 1 from Secret Service. It is unclear who exactly fired them and from where. After 16 seconds. These guys are trained to be on the spot, taking out somebody. These are sharpshooters that are trained to take out threats in an instant. And this guy gets 8 shots off. Trust me. This is, if it doesn't smell fishy yet, it should. I got a bridge to sell you. If you're going to be one of those many things that you believe is a lone gunman and nobody was involved or trained in this. And we have, this story is, of course, one of those stories in that timeline we just read, that Trump rally gunman was spotted by law enforcement nearly 30 minutes before shots were fired. And I know we've seen this video before, but let's just watch it again to give us an idea how ridiculous all of this is.
I was doing the job. I wouldn't even be doing this. I'd be at some beautiful places.
Look, they're all pointing.
The Atlantic, maybe the Pacific.
Yeah, someone's on top of the roof. Look. There he is right there. Right there, see him? He's laying down. You see him?
Yeah, he's laying down.
And Scott, I'm here with you fighting like hell to get a Senate.
What's happening?
And to make sure we take back the White House, because if we do, we're going to make America better than ever before. We're going to make it.
Yeah, look. There he is.
Easy, because we have millions and millions of people in our country that shouldn't be here. Dangerous people. Criminals. We have criminals. We have drug dealers. We have people that should not be here.
Right on the roof.
It's much tougher than it happens.
You went right on the roof again.
I know most of you have seen this before and you know what I'm talking about, but if you haven't, that should just blow your mind. Everybody sees him. They're yelling, "Shooter on the roof." Trump's still speaking. There's police officers, they all know what's going on and they're allowing it to happen. So you tell me it's just a lone gunman. It was just a lapse of security. Come on, man. These are things that they want us to believe. And unfortunately, since 2020, people will buy whatever they have to say, and that's what we're living in. That's the world that we're living in. And just to continue on, of course, we know this headline right here kind of tells us that it was worse than that. It says Thomas Crook's parents called the cops on the day of Trump's rally shooting. It says that Crook's parents called law enforcement in Bethel Park, Pennsylvania, to say they were concerned about the son's whereabouts, Fox News reported. Now, we also now have a video that Crooks put out right before he went to do this that gives us more. We have now more questions than we do have answers. Listen to this.
My name is Thomas Matthew Crooks. I hate Republicans. I hate Trump. And guess what? You got the wrong guy.
You got the wrong guy. He's just a lone gunman. Nothing to see here. Keep moving on. Yeah, right. Okay, we're not buying any of that. But of course, this doesn't stop short of the of all the conspiracy theories to come out. Of course, they have to cover all this up because they missed, and that's a miracle in itself. We'll talk about in a minute. He wasn't supposed to miss. And but God has His timing, and I believe that that it's just crazy. But this is what we got: Blue Anon conspiracy. Democrats accuse Trump of staging his own assassination attempt. Claim Trump uses fake blood with help of the Secret Service. So and this is coming from both sides, and they've slowed down the motions. I've seen the slow motion videos of the bullet actually going by him in his ear, and then his ear all of a sudden has a hole in it before he goes down. I mean, they have too many camera angles, too much film of high definition, high frame rate film that can be slowed down that shows that this just wasn't faked. I mean, this really happened. And but of course, it doesn't stop short of all these conspiracy theories. And of course, some Blue Anon insists that the incident was a false flag, alleging Trump himself orchestrated it to gather sympathy and political support. And because it's such a mess, right away, one of the first stories that came out, I think it was like Sunday morning or Sunday, this headline comes out: ex-officials say they were asked Biden DOJ for protection from Iranian threats, but never got an answer. So they're trying to deflect to Iran. See, it was Iran. This kid must have had help from Iran, because we don't think that it came from inside our own people. Our own government did this on purpose. I mean, it was just a lone gunman, nothing to see here. Or it was the Iranians, or I'm surprised I haven't heard the Russians. But the Russians are supposed to be Trump's friends, so they can't use that. They're saving that one for after the election again, right? Of course, that's the one that they keep. But this has got to be the laugh of the week, and you guys know this one. This one just, it is more, it just is beyond comical for us to believe something like this. Police snipers were not put on roof where Trump gunman was because it was sloped. Boy, they really think we're stupid, don't they? And people were probably buying this because they're not even bothering to look. Thank goodness that there's enough trolls out there that showed pictures of gunmen on very sloped roofs like the White House and the Capitol, and the building, the sloped roof where the sniper that shot the guy was on was more sloped than this roof. But they got to come up with some excuse for their failed attempt, right? Secret Service Director Kimberly said in an interview Tuesday, a decision was made to put local law enforcement inside the building. That gunman Thomas Matthew Crooks later climbed on top to shoot the former President Donald Trump instead of the rooftop due to the safety factor of putting someone on a sloped roof. That building in particular has a sloped roof at its highest point, and so there's a safety factor, and that would be considered that we wouldn't want to put somebody up on a sloped roof, and so the decision was made to secure the building from inside. Well, why on the inside? Trump speaking. All of those stupid officers in there playing cards and drinking lattes should have been out walking the perimeter. And one officer was, and he got scared and fell down off the ladder. Where was his gun? Where was his taser? I mean, come on, man. These guys, it's the incompetence that they're blaming it on is too much of a coincidence for me to believe. And so, sloped roof argument. And then this other, I just want to read some of this because we understand there's a deep state. We understand the Luciferian conspiracy. We follow all of that here. And but this is from the burningplatform.com. And of course, this is a deep state report type of website. And I just wanted to read a few lines of it from here. And says they'll do anything to win, which is true. I mean, Biden now is in a mess. This would have really helped the Biden campaign if they would have been successful. And he says, but they quote William Casey Jr. from 1981. We know our disinformation program is complete when everything the American public believes is false. That's just like we started. stuff that they expect us to believe in. This is a CIA. This is 1981. This was William Casey said this in 1981. So it says, and some of the quotes from this article, very deep article, you'd have to go and read it. And of course, a lot of it we already know. We are now at a war with the deep state and anyone associated with their criminal deeds. Their need to retain power grows more desperate by the day. They have concluded they must win the upcoming election at all costs, or their unlawful acts over the last 8 years will be revealed and retribution doled out to the perpetrators. Their failure in assassinating Trump does not mean they will not try again. Their biggest hurdle is their ballot rigging operation only works in the swing states when the vote is reasonably close. The presidential debate and subsequent embarrassing press conferences have revealed Biden to be a dimension-ridden husk. Who can't even read a teleprompter at this point? Only the most brain-dead liberal kooks will vote for this walking dead candidate. After Trump's triumphant post-assassination attempt photo op with fist raised in victory, his odds of winning the election went through the roof. The potential replacement candidates for Biden are only a motley crew of idiocy, failure, and low IQ diversity options. When the deep state was blindsided in 2016 with the Trump victory, they proceeded to derail his presidency by convincing him to hire their deep state operatives into key roles while keeping the Congress, DOJ, DOD, FBI, and CIA at war with everything Trump tried to accomplish. If he wins this time, he won't make the same miscalculations again, and they know it. They know it. And, you know, you know, you love Trump, you hate Trump, it doesn't matter. I am a firm believer. A lot of people disagree with me. They think he's a globalist plant. They think he's controlled. I think that he's the wrench in their plan that you and I have been praying for. He is the you know, we're praying to God against the evil of this globalism and all of this evil. And when we pray, God moves people. He's the one who controls everything. His timing is his timing. And the Bible is full of places where when God's people pray against evil, God withholds what he's going to happen by his grace and his mercy and his long suffering. He doesn't want that any would perish, but all would come to repentance. So I think that there's a pushback happening with all of these things that are happening, and we can see because of all the resistance from the deep state. If the one thing that we've learned from Trump is that he's helped expose and make mainline what we've known all along, and it's made it mainstream and public and made it, you know, believable, something that was unbelievable in the past. And this last Saturday proves that to a point. And what I want to bring up before we move on to a few more stories is that you have to understand that this was set up by the deep state, and they failed miserably. And it is a tremendous miracle that Trump is alive. He should not be alive right now. And that, I don't care, you could say whatever you want. You could say that it was made up, you could have all your theories. But people that are experts and professionals and all of the tape that I've seen, it's nothing short of a miracle. I know that they can make stuff up like this. Trust me, I'm not. Don't send me letters and emails and comments saying that, oh well, they can make it all up. I mean, yes, they could. Maybe they did. But what I'm seeing and from what I'm hearing and what I witnessed and from my research, it looks like that it was a miracle, and I believe that God does these things. He has a plan and a purpose. There's a time for everything under heaven, and when it's Trump's time, Trump's time will come. All of our time will come, but we're in God's hands, and we need to remember that. And He's recognized it, and a lot of people have recognized it, and that should be the goal of all of this: is for us to remember, hey, we don't know when that time will come. The time will come. We just don't know when the time will come. So we want to make sure that we're right before the Lord. Make sure we have a relationship with Him. And this article is from Zero Hedge, and a lot of us, we respect Zero Hedge. They have good articles, and this one right here from Tyler Durbin Durden that says former snipers agree it's a miracle Trump is still alive. These are former snipers. These are military folks, right? One of the most interesting aspects in the flood of analysis on the attempted Trump assassination is the commentary by former military and SWAT snipers experienced in providing security details for political figures. Nearly all of them confirmed that the Secret Service surveillance planning during the Butler, Pennsylvania rally was perhaps the worst they have ever seen. It was so bad, in fact, that it almost appears as if the massive holes in the perimeter were deliberate. And these experts are saying that. Well, what have we just shown you? You know, so far it is not clear who specifically was in charge of the security plans for that event. However, many former snipers agree that it's a miracle Donald Trump is still alive. In fact, they agree most entirely with our own analysis published on July 15th. In an interview with KJRH in Oklahoma, former SWAT Major Nate Norton of the Sapu Police Department lays out this scary reality. I'm glad they're calling him a shooter because he ain't a sniper, Norton said. If he was a sniper, President Trump would be dead on the very first shot. There's no ands, ifs, or buts about this. This is somebody that has some weird, sick agenda and did the best mediocre training, in my opinion. Because at 130 yards, 190 yards, that is a piece of cake gravy range for somebody that shoots. The 140-yard shot, gift-wrapped and handed to the alleged shooter, Thomas Crook, was so easy, even for an amateur, that Trump should not be alive today. The bullet, reportedly fired from an AR-15 running 5.56 or .223 ammunition, would have left a deadly and expansive impact that would have been less than an inch to the shooter's right. So they say that there's no reason for him to have missed. It was a cakewalk shot from that distance with his rangefinder and his gun, his position, and he had a good shot. He had a good shot. But what happened? We've seen the pictures, right? We've seen a lot of these pictures. This one here, we see the bullet going right by. And Trump, notice Trump is turned away from the microphone. He doesn't usually do that. He even admits that he doesn't do that. He never turns away. He said that he had looked up for a moment because he was reading something and just turned right at that second when the bullet whizzed by. And of course, we've seen pictures like this one that gives a graphic from the top and shows his head in one direction, and then the moment that it turned, where the bullet went by. But I got something better for you. This is a computer animation in slow motion with audio of what happened, and shows you how close this bullet was from killing the president. Oh.
Take a look what happened.
Did you catch that? Do you see how close that was? It looks like the second bullet is what nicked his ear. The first one just whizzed by. The second one clipped his ear. But it was in that and that was in slow motion. Notice how quick it was from the moment he turned his head from the first bullet going by his head. It's a miracle, you guys. There's no reason for that guy to be alive right now. And it just goes to show you when the shooter first fired, Trump was dead. But Trump turned his head miraculously and is alive. We just have to remember that God's timing is not our timing. And I believe that this is something that we just see that happens in our lives. We need to understand that God is involved in our lives, in unbelievers' lives. He's involved in world politics. He's involved in putting up kings. Everything is under his control, and we lose sight of that. We think that this is all, the enemy is controlling everything, and we forget that God is the one that's controlling. The enemy isn't doing anything unless God's allowing it. And we need to remember that, because we tend to get hung up. But, you believe what you want to believe, but I think the evidence shows. And of course, everybody's up in arms and complaining because, nothing to see here, because right after that, and this is kind of a surprising headline to me, because you would think that this is a Christian news site. You would think that, they act surprised when they see something like this. And that is RNC's opening night, a parade of porn stars, Sikhs, and LGBTQ activists. So I've never watched the RNC. I do not support the Republican National Committee. I have nothing to do with them. I mean, I understand, I vote Republican most of the time because that's the only choice that we really have. But come on, you know what I mean? You act surprised that a secular political organization is doing stuff like this. It's like, I just surprises me. He says, I get a little politically motivated around election season. I'm not obsessed with politics, but I'm obsessed with the theology surrounding the movements of the day. And in this season, that happens to be just politics. So I apologize if it seems like I'm focusing too much on it. This is the writer of the article. Remember when the Democratic National Committee denounced God in their 2012 platform? Conservatives were rightly outraged as the Democrats removed all reference of God, replacing God with the hollow shell of secular humanism. This godless platform with its tenets rooted in secularism was a blatant rejection of the Christian ideas that built this nation. Yet, in a twist of bitter irony, the Republican National Committee now finds itself on a similar path of moral erosion, only a few years behind. And then it goes on and talks about all the stuff they did. And, and I have to ask, why are you so surprised? People that are surprised that the RNC has done this at their convention are just like the Democrats that are all done surprised after the debate that Biden's lost his capacities. We've known that for years. We knew that in 2020. Everybody was trying to point it out, but we're all, you're nuts. There's nothing wrong with him. That's just conspiracy theory, conservative junk, And the RNC's been going south for years, and all of a sudden, now you have to understand, they're pragmatists that run polls. They're only trying to win an election. That's their goal. They could care less about your beliefs unless your beliefs are something they need. They'll tell you what you want to hear. And why should we not be surprised about this? In 2023, there was a poll done. In 2023, there was a poll done by it was a Christian worldview poll done by I forget the guy's name, but we just recently got these worldview statistics, and this is one. 1/3 of churchgoers believe that abortion is not acceptable in any circumstances. In any circumstances. So 1/3 of churchgoers believe that abortion is murder. The other 2/3 think that abortion's okay, whether it's sometimes or all the time. But that's 2/3 of people that confess to be Bible-believing Christians. Ohio. J.D. Vance is from Ohio. Ohio just had an election, and in one of the most conservative counties in Ohio, when they had a thing to put abortion into the state constitution, it was 2-1. And when they did the exit polls, 59% of those that profess to be evangelical Christians voted to have abortion put into the Constitution. So what do you expect the RNC to do? That isn't their fault. It is the church's fault for not teaching that life begins at conception. These people have no biblical worldview because they're being taught to have their best life now and having people on chandeliers, and it's just a worship service. We just gather together to worship the Lord but they're not being taught and discipled what true worship looks like. True worship affects everything in our life from the bedroom to the ballot box. Everything that we do should be Christ-like and God-centered, and people are not being taught that. So they're falling into all the lies that we're supposed to believe, the things that we're supposed to believe, like computer glitch, or like abortion is a human right. Those are things that we've been forced to believe. 50 years of Roe versus Wade has indoctrinated even the church. And so what do you expect the RNC to do? I don't, I don't, it doesn't surprise me. You guys, it doesn't. It doesn't surprise me. So I got people that are texting me, are you watching the RNC? I have no desire to watch the RNC. Of course, I'm going to have 2 boxes to check during the election. And I'm going to say, well, what's the best of the 2 for me at this point in time in my life? And it's pretty obvious which one it's going to be. I mean, we don't need it. There's really no question. One that thinks that, killing a baby 30 days after birth is okay, and one that thinks that killing babies after up to 6 weeks is okay. I don't know, which one do you think? Which one's going to murder more babies? Which one is going to support Israel? I mean, these are, you guys need to get off your high horse thinking that the RNC is our final hope, because they are not, and realize that, we need to be out discipling people, telling them what's right and wrong, what the Bible says, how do we live. It's the church's fault, not the RNC. And so, but anyway, we've been going on for almost 30 minutes on all this, so we're going to go ahead and finish some stories today. And I don't know, we know where we're headed, and even if it doesn't matter who wins the election, we're still going to march towards a one world government, a one world economy, and all of these things are going to happen. And one of the big things that needs to happen, that is a global ID. And if you notice that, and if you guys are not noticing this, they are already funneling us, getting us used to these things by targeting the older folks first. People that will just, that are old and will believe the government is here to help you. And one of the things that they're funneling everybody into now, without us even knowing it, when it comes to our Social Security. And if you're young, you're not even thinking about it till you get older. But for me, in my late 50s, I am, my money guy wants me to continually bring my Social Security statements in, and I can only get those online now. You can't get those. They don't mail them to you. You can't call and get you have to actually log in. Well, I got an email this week, and it said that important changes to access your Social Security account. Soon you will no longer be able to sign into your online Social Security account using your Social Security username and password. To access Social Security online services, including My Social Security, you will need to create a login.gov or an ID Me account. So that, and my wife works for the government, by the way, and she has a login.gov account because her services are for her to be able to get her earning and leave statements, her benefits. It's all online now. And most people have direct deposit with their Social Security, and in order to get that information, you got to log in. And if you think going to the office will save you, they're just going to set up your own account for you while you're sitting there in the office. So maybe you don't realize it, but you're already getting an electronic footprint as long as you're using the Social Security system, which is always been a form of United States ID. It has been our ID numbering system we've had for years. Since before I was born, Social Security numbers have been and it was all leading. This is their long game plan. And but notice these two. You go to these two websites. The first one is login.gov, and so it says the public's one account for government. The one account and password for secure private access to participating government agencies. Login.gov is for you. And so that's what that one says. But this one's even more. Look at this one. This is the ID.me. Your digital identity wallet, an easier, more secure way to log in and prove your identity. So they've already done it. They've already done it. And now, another way that they're targeting the older folks and you know, with the baby boomers, that they start to set up a precedence and work their way in to everybody, that the only way that you will age is into this system that they want to bring up. And the one thing that we've been telling you about is they want to move everybody into 15-minute cities. Well, they're starting their trial run with the older folks, because I recently discovered from my unfortunate representative Omni Berra, that is for all these things, that they just put in a lot of money to a project here called Hub in the Heights. Hub in the Heights, and it's De Paso Heights is a place that's always been lower income, and so they're pumping like $2.5 million into this project, and this is what it's called: Greater Sacramento Urban League, in partnership with public and private investors and the dynamic Del Paso Heights community, is spearheading the development of a long overdue and urgently needed mixed use commercial/retail affordable housing and economic empowerment center called Hub in the Heights. The Hub for short. This nonprofit-led place-based initiative is designed to encourage private and public sector investments alongside the Marysville Boulevard corridor in Del Paso Heights. These investments will spur economic development, job growth, new affordable multifamily housing, and enhance the quality of life in the surrounding community. It's always for the good of the community, right? Specifically, now listen to this, specifically, the Hub is a proposed 6-story, nearly 80,000 square foot mixed-use building housing more than 14,000 square foot of neighborhood-serving community retail office spaces, 64 affordable and senior housing units, community gathering space, and an economic empowerment center. It's a 15-minute city, you guys. And it starts with the older or lower income people. That's the people that need the sources from the government. You know, we'll put you into these little communities, and everything you need is right there. The store, community gathering center, they've already got it in assisted living facilities. You go in there, they got everything you need there. You never have to go anywhere. And so they're expanding that to lower income and HUD and all of these other things. And it's happening. We already know about this project that's happening, and it's going forward, you guys. There was all kinds of pushback when they came out with this a couple years ago, but it's going forward, and that's California forever. And you can see it's got public parks and open spaces to walk, schools, multiple safe routes for bike and walk, reliable and frequent access to transit, flexible parking options. Everything's in the California forever is going to be a self-sustainable 15-minute city. That's exactly what it is. And so if all of this is depressing you and everything that we said has kind of led you to the end, I wouldn't recommend it. But if you live in Switzerland, you could just go to a pod, a Switzerland to soon use first suicide pod for assisted dying. Now, we know they're trying to them, this is okay. To the evil globalists, the Luciferians, they think that, you know, getting the population down by killing people off and all the useless eaters that Yuval Harari always says is a good thing. So this is supposed to be positive. If you want to end your life, go ahead. It says the pod was invented by the founder of Exit International, Philip Nietzsche, who has been nicknamed Dr. Death. Switzerland will soon use its first portable suicide pod that will allow a person to die without the requirement of medical supervision, an assisted dying group said. The pod, called Sarco, which is a futuristic-looking 3D printed capsule, was first unveiled in 2019 for assisted suicide in Switzerland amid controversy. It works by filling a chamber with nitrogen and reducing oxygen levels rapidly once a button is activated from inside. The process would allow the person to lose consciousness and die in approximately 10 minutes. Assisted suicide has been legal in Switzerland since the 40s. If performed by someone with no direct interest in the death, it has been made the country what some called a death tourism magnet. And of course, we know that during COVID in Canada, you could just email your doctor and say you're depressed and you want to kill yourself, and they have what's called MAID, M-A-I-D, medical assisted whatever it is, in death. You know, they will send you a little packet of pills that you can take and kill yourself. It's just insane how the world has gotten away from the idea, well, you know, when life no longer is a created thing by God and precious, and it just becomes an animal from the goo to the zoo to the you. What's it matter? You know, there's nothing, it doesn't matter. And of course, with all that's going on and the direction the United States is going and the changing of guards, so to speak, in the administration, shouldn't surprise us that we see Xi Jinping in China running out of time, ready to strike. And so this is a news story that we've been following for a while. And of course, Xi Jinping, I guess there was a rumor that he had a stroke recently, but we don't know. But we understand China is running out of time to take Taiwan. They know that if Trump takes office, that he won't allow it to happen. Of course, it'll happen if it's supposed to happen. We know that. But the point is that we might see something happen before November. So be on the lookout for that. And of course, our economy keeps tanking and nobody wants to talk about it. Why Japan selling off U.S. dollars is major threat to the U.S. economy. We've already noted a few weeks ago that China has sold off almost $1 trillion in U.S. bonds, and it seems that that Japan is now doing that. One of the things I noticed on here, it says that that as for the dollar, if Japan is about to flip to mass seller, that knocks out the single biggest overseas holder of U.S. debt, and at a time when the number 2 holder, China, is selling U.S. dollars hand over fist. So these are the 2 countries that hold the most U.S. debt, and they're selling it. That causes our dollar to be devalued extremely fast, and prices will crash and interest rates will soar. That's just the bottom line. And then, of course, we're going to finish off today's stories with some Israel stories, and we have this one from the Jerusalem Post, again showing you a demonic rise of anti-Semitism that was predicted would happen in the last days. And so this shouldn't surprise us. Nashville has a Nazi problem. Jews face 2 weeks of neo-Nazi invasion. And, you know, if you walk around with your Trump flags and your the election was stolen rally, you need to be arrested and thrown in jail. But if you walk around and say kill Jews and from the river to the sea and flash Nazi symbols, that's your free speech. You can see how crazy our country is, right? It says that even Nazi speech is protected under the United States Constitution, said Drake, but assured that violations would act swiftly when there were violations of law. Neo-Nazis have terrorized Jewish Nashville residents over the last 2 weeks with a series of marches, physical assaults, and anti-Semitic pamphlets, according to Jewish groups, law enforcement, and local politicians. Adding to the list of incidents over the year conducted by multiple extremist groups coming from outside the city, on Wednesday, the Jewish Federation of Greater Nashville warned on Facebook that security contacts had informed them that one neo-Nazi group would continue to operate in the Nashville area for several days. Nashville Metropolitan Police Department Chief John Drake said in a Wednesday statement that the group was likely operating out of a short-term rental in Scottsdale, Kentucky. Nashville Jewish Federation CEO Rabbi Dan Horowitz said in a Nashville City Council meeting on Tuesday that several groups have been visiting Nashville over the past year and that 2 separate groups were responsible for actions over the last 2 weeks. Drake said officers had been present at neo-Nazi demonstrations to deter confrontations. He advised residents not to interact with protesters who were filming for propaganda. So they just allow them to do it. You know, just like a lone gunman climbing around on the roof. Nothing to see here, and then all this anti-Semitism. But the time is going to come when all the Jews are going to leave. They're all going to leave and go back to Israel. We understand that there'll be still some scattered, but most of the population will be in Israel at the time of the 7-year tribulation period. That time will come. That time will come. And then this story right here we have Ben-Gur visits Temple Mount, urges PM not to fold under pressure to OK hostage deal. Of course, Ben-Gur is part of the ultra-Orthodox party that united with Benjamin Netanyahu's Likud party to form a government. He has a role in the government, and he says that far-right minister, they call him far-right, this is, of course, Times of Israel, and it says urges PM not to fold under pressure to OK hostage deal. He says he prayed for hostages released, appeared to hint he still aims to change status quo at Flashpoint holy site that bars Jewish prayer. Jordan slams visit. So Ben-Gur goes up on the Temple Mount, prays for the hostage release, that makes a statement. This guy is, but when we see this happening, when we see Jews praying on the Temple Mount, that's a sign of the last days, you guys. It's pretty powerful, pretty powerful. And then, of course, you hear all this river to the sea madness and everybody pushing Israel for a two-state solution. Well, they just did this week. No Palestinian state west of the Jordan River declares Israel's Knesset. Of course, they had a vote, and it said it says proposal affirmed 28-9, including votes from opposition. Israel members of the Knesset declared their opposition to a Palestinian state west of the Jordan River in a majority vote on Wednesday evening. And of course, it was brought by one of these other parties. And it says the declarative motion was eventually adopted by a vote of 68 for and 9 against out of a total of 120 Knesset members, with only opposing voices coming from the Arab parties, Ra'am and Hadish Tal'ah. Most members of other parties, such as Likud, National Unity, Shas, United Torah Judaism, Jewish Power, Yisrael Betenu, and Religious Zionism voted for the bill. However, many leading Knesset members were absent, including Prime Minister Benjamin would have voted for it, right? Defense Minister Yuval Gallant, and most of these guys that weren't there would have voted for it. So it voted and it came out. And then, of course, but that's not what the Antichrist is going to say, right? As the world's going to continue to push for, King sets out Labor's plan to play its part trying to secure Middle East plan. Of course, a new government just formed in UK, and it says he sets out the Labour. They're the Labour Party. They're the ones in control now. It says King, what is it? The UK government will play its part in trying to secure long-term peace and security in the Middle East, and is committed to a two-state solution with a safe and secure Israel alongside a viable and sovereign Palestinian state. King Charles has told Parliament. Delivering the first King's speech from the throne under a Labour government for 14 years, His Majesty confirmed Keir Starmer's aim to make the UK a central player in efforts to spark a renewed peace process between the Israelis and the Palestinians. And of course, that's the two-state solution, and that will never work. There is no such thing as a two-state solution. But you have to understand, the time will come. The time will come. The time will come for us at one point or another to either take our last breath here on earth. The time will come when maybe a stray bullet won't miss us, and it will hit us exactly as God intended it to. We might get sick. We might get hit by a bus. The time will come when we will have to, when God's plan for our life in this earth will end, and our eternity will begin quite right after that. But the time will come for Israel when Israel, in a strait of desperation, hated by the world, and really at a place where they have no other hope but for somebody to come in and rescue them, will make a covenant, will make a treaty, whether it's a two-state solution, whether it is a peace plan that will allow them to build their temple and will be a guaranteed peace to help them from their enemies, that the Bible calls a covenant with death. That will be the thing that marks the 7-year tribulation, because it will be a 7-year treaty that this rising world leader that will take over the world will come out and make with the many, which will include Israel. And Isaiah calls it this, Isaiah 28:14 and 15, "Therefore hear the word of the Lord, you scornful men, who rule this people who are in Jerusalem, because you have said, we have made a covenant with death and with Sheol. We are in agreement. When the overflowing scourge passes through, he will not come to us. For we have made lies our refuge, and under falsehoods we have hidden ourselves." And everybody knows that this covenant of death is it's the same word used for the covenant that will be made with the many in Daniel chapter 9, verse 27. And the idea is the same thing. We all understand that this is what Israel will do. And they will be fooled by the Antichrist. And in the middle of this agreement, we know that the Antichrist will break that agreement, and he will step into the Holy of Holies and make himself to be God. And the Jews are going to realize they made a huge mistake. And the trauma that will happen to them, the tribulation that they will go through in the last half of the tribulation period will be worse than any time on earth for them. It will be the most horrible time for human history for them. And they will escape, and 2/3 of them will die. But we have to understand that God, though, has a plan for all of this. Just like we said, that time will come, but God is in control of everything. He's in control of what happens to the Jews. Everything that he said will happen exactly and right on time, to the minute, you guys, to the minute. Because we know that if you just continue reading in Isaiah 18 through 19, it says your covenant with death will be annulled, and your agreement with Sheol, the grave, will not stand. When the overflowing scourge passes through the tribulation period, then you will be trampled down by it. You will. As often as it goes out, it will take you. For morning by morning, it will pass over, and by day and by night, it will be a terror, just to understand the report. Their covenant will be annulled, but only through the tremendous trial, because of their rejection of Jesus Christ as their Messiah, will lead to their accepting of Jesus Christ, the Messiah, at the right time. The time will come. It will happen. And so we need to realize that our time will come. And if you're alive and you're here, and at this time, we understand and know that there is coming a time very soon when we will, before all of this stuff starts to pour out, all of the evil and all of the tribulation period comes about, that you and I will be evacuated. And we know that because Revelation 3:10 tells us, because you and I, who are believers in Christ, who have placed our faith and trust in him, who have kept my command to persevere, that's what we're doing now, persevering till he comes again, I also will, the time will come, will keep you from the hour of trial which shall come upon the whole world to test those who dwell on the earth. It can't get any clearer than that, folks. That you and I, those who have received the command to persevere, placing our faith and trust in him, it's literally the word of my patience. We have received God's word of his patience to wait upon him. Will be kept from the hour of trial, the 7-year tribulation period that is coming to what? Test those who dwell on the earth and to refine Israel. There is a time. That time will come. And it is coming very soon, we believe. And so we need to make sure that we have placed our faith and trust in Jesus Christ, that we're not playing around with this thing that we call Christianity, that we make sure that our worship is inhabiting every area of our life, from the bedroom to the ballot box, to everything that we do in between, that we continue to be salt and light in this world, pushing back the tide of evil and praying if God might perhaps grant us a little more time to see those that we love and care about come to a saving faith in Jesus Christ. That includes you if you have not placed your faith and trust in Christ. You need to do that today. Jesus died on the cross for your sins, and he rose again from the dead. He has delivered you from the pain and sorrow of death, and you can receive this free gift by placing your faith and trust in that which he has done for you. And the Bible says you'll be born again. The Spirit of God will come and live inside of you. You'll now be able to really be able to make sense of the mess that this world's in, understanding that God's timing is perfect. The time is coming. The time will come. And so we need to trust in him in that. Trust in the Lord in all those things. So for you and I, may that help you to be confident of his hands in our life, carrying us through, protecting us through, and guiding us through all things that we do. And we want to thank you for watching this today, and we want to just say thank you and have a great week, and God bless you, and Maranatha. If you have been blessed by this podcast, please subscribe and share to help get the word out in these last days. If you'd like more information or to contact us, please go to calvarysolidground.com. God bless you, and see you next time on Apologetics.